This series is really about elegant minimalism, hence the title. But minimalist doesn't mean cheap. Sometimes it can get pretty expensive, and this is kind of one example of that. First thing I did was I got my BigBattery battery pack, which was not inexpensive. Now that I have that block of lithium, I need a way to keep track of how things are going with it and how my usage is progressing. There is a voltmeter on the battery. Right now it's at 13.2, which is pretty good. It's not a really good gauge of how things are going. Why do I need this? Well, when we take off, sometimes we have, a lot of times actually, we have shore power to plug in at the campgrounds. But sometimes we have to go several days without it, particularly when we go to a music festival and park there for 3, 4, 5, or 6 days. And we're just in a crowd with a sea of campers, and there's no power. So I do have my 202 amp battery. We have meager needs, maybe 5 to 10 amps at a time per day, so we can get 5 to 7 days out of the battery, I think, because I only use it a few days at a time right now. So needed a way to keep track of things, and that's where this comes in, and that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to get it connected. Now this, if you are a person who says, what the heck is that and why do I want it, then you probably don't know a whole lot about this, like I didn't before I researched it. So this is the easy way to get really good readings out of your battery, know how much you've got left, know how long you can keep using it, and if you're just going to run out in the middle of the night. So let's get started. First of all, this device that I'm going to be showing you is made by Victron. They're a Norwegian company that makes devices like this, chargers, all different kinds of stuff. They're known for very high quality, very long lasting, and something that really works good and gives you some useful information. I have a 202 amp battery, and so this device, which we'll talk about in a second, will handle up to 500 amps. So, it'll handle much more. Now, some people have 1,000 amps, 200 amp, and they do make 1,000 and a 2,000 amp shunt like this. That's what this is called. This one, if you can see on it, says 500 amps. And its purpose is to keep track of how your battery's doing. Now, Victron sells one like this that costs a lot more. I will tell you, this one is $130, so it ain't cheap. But they have one that costs quite a bit more, and it has a wire attached to it that goes up to a gauge that you can mount on the wall, and it gives you all the good information you need, but it is a lot more expensive. This one does the same thing, but it's Bluetooth. So if you have a phone, you can see the readings right on there. And I don't need to have those readings on the wall for me to look at all the time. I need to look at it in the evening or in the morning to see how we're doing, see if we're going to make it through the next day, through the night. And if I can do that, I'm happy. Now, what's in the box? Not a very big box for your $130, but you get the shunt. And the shunt has a way to connect it to your battery, and it's got the Bluetooth adapter. There are some quick start connection directions in it. And there are a couple of these cords, and what they are is a cord that connects right in here and will connect to your battery. And there's a small fuse in here. And this just powers the device. That's all this is for. There are two of them. There's battery and there's an auxiliary one here, so if you have something else to connect to it, you can use the second one. Connecting this is really fairly simple. It connects between the load and the negative battery terminal. So your black wire, the negative from the battery, goes right here to battery minus. Usually a big black wire with a connection. You unscrew this, put it on, and screw it down on top. This goes to your camper or boat or wherever you have it connected to. Unscrew this, connect the black wire that goes to your camper, and it has to be the minus wire being black, and you are hooked up to the camper, that's all. But you do have to power this. So you take the pin that is on this and you stick it right in here, and then you connect this to the positive terminal of your battery. This has nothing to do with keeping track of how your battery is doing anything. It just powers the Bluetooth device, that's all. You don't need a negative because you're already connected negative here. And that's it. Now mine has a battery switch, which I normally have to disconnect the battery anyway. So I'll be taking and mounting this. I could mount it on the wall like this, but I want to be able to keep a look at the front because it does have little indicator lights if there's an error or if it's running. So I'll be taking a wood block and cutting it and mounting it horizontally like this. It doesn't have to be mounted anywhere where you can really see it, because what you're going to be looking at is what's on your phone once you download the app. So tomorrow, because it's getting a little late, I'm going to put this in. It shouldn't take too long, and then we'll take a look at the app and how to set the app up, which is also very simple. It's actually kind of pre-set up, but you can make a couple of adjustments on it, and we'll see how the battery's doing. As you can see here, the red wire, the plus or hot wire, is connected to the load, probably the camper, and to the battery. The negative wire, the black wire, has been removed and connected to one side of the Victron device. And here, the negative or black wire is connected to the other terminal of the Victron device and continues over to the negative side of the camper. Probably grounded to the chassis in most cases. The final connection is the wire that came with the battery with the fuse in it. It connects to the positive in on the Victron device to power it and connects to the positive terminal of the battery. And this is if you would want to connect it to your starter battery and your alternator. So, if you're a masochist, be my guest and go for it. I won't be doing this, but a lot of people do. And this is just a little diagram that shows that the Smart Shunt is available in 500 amp, 1000 amp, and 2000 amp sizes. It'll work with a supply voltage, the voltage coming in from your battery of 6.5 to 70 volts. Of course, my battery is 12. A lot of people have possibly 24 or 48 volts also. The current draw is less than 1 milliamp, so that's how much it takes to power it. So it's not taking hardly anything from your battery. So running it will not drain your battery. The input voltage is also 6.5 to 70 volts, and anything within that range. And the battery capacity, depending on which shunt you buy, can be anywhere from 0, they will all do that, up to 999 amp hours, depending on if you have the 500,000 or 2000 amp device. Okay, there's the shunt up there, and there's my battery charger. I have the negative going from the battery here and then out to ground on the camper. There's a small red wire right here with a fuse that is connected to the hot side of the switch that goes to the battery to power the shunt. You can see the small blinking light that indicates that Bluetooth is ready. And to turn it on, you just start the app up and it connects by itself. Very cool. And there's the entire setup. Big battery, the Victron Charger, and the shunt. So here I'm starting up the Victron app and it's connecting to Bluetooth. And as you can see, it shows percentage, shows the voltage, but not a whole lot else yet. I'm going to hit the settings gear in the top right hand corner and bring up this window. And here we have a choice of changing some parameters of the battery, setting some alarms, and some other items. Now on this screen, we can see the battery capacity. Mine is 200 amps, but I changed it to 202. The charge voltage, the discharge floor, which for a lead acid battery would be about 50% and a lithium about 20. I have set it to 30. And the discharge floor is really how low it should go before it needs to be charged. Now I've charged this battery to 100%, and to let the device know that it is at 100%, and that's the gauge it should go by from now on, I'm going to be hitting the synchronize button. And when I do, it will look and say this is now 100%, and this is the gauge we go by from now on as we discharge. To change your battery capacity, you just hit the battery capacity at the top and it brings up this screen, and you can plus or minus and bring your battery capacity up or down. I have a 202 amp battery, you may have 100, you may have 500, but you need to let it know just how big your battery is. There are some alarms to let you know when you've reached a certain low or high threshold voltage. You can set those or not. Choosing miscellaneous will let you see the battery that you are monitoring, or let you add an auxiliary input, either another battery or maybe a temperature sensor, and set it to that. Okay, here's the status of the battery. You can see the peak voltage, but I haven't turned the switch on to the camper yet, so there's nothing drawing on it. So everything else is pretty much zero. And of course, there is no history yet. Now I'm going to turn the switch on to the camper. Now nothing is running in the camper. These are just residual currents from pilot lights and such. Let's turn on the max fan on the ceiling and let it run at 100% open. It will ramp up, and you can see it's going to take about 3.5 amps. Now let's cut its speed down to about 50%. And you can see a subsequent drop in current and wattage. I'll turn off the fan and then turn on a light switch that just lights a couple of LED lights in the ceiling. And you'll see the subsequent drop in current and wattage from there. So there it is. Big battery, Victron Charger, and Victron Shunt. It got a little more involved at the end than I really wanted it to, but I wanted to be complete. And I also wanted anyone who doesn't know much about this, like me, to not feel apprehensive about putting some lithium batteries in their camper and not be afraid to do it. It's very doable, and there are some companies out there that put together some amazing pieces of equipment so you don't have to do it. Although, those people who do, I admire you. I've watched you on Facebook and on YouTube, and you're pretty amazing. But not everyone is, so this is the alternative. Thanks for watching.